funeral message, but he made a comment that I felt like was such a compliment, and I thought it's not just exemplary of one individual, and he was talking about myself. It's really exemplary of the church today. And he said, you really know your people, and I don't know everything about everybody, so obvious. But he said, you really know your people, and that's a very high compliment. And I was thinking, I was sitting right there, I was thinking, by and large, I feel like our church is that way. And some of the opportunities that we have, the kind of the home groups, those are a big deal. The men's ministry, we've had, singles ministry in operation, married stuff in operation, and, so on and so forth, ladies groups and things of that nature. And all of these elements help us not only to become better, as what the Bible would say, iron sharpening iron, but it brings us closer together. And that is just a critical element of apostolic operation, and taken back to Acts, the 2nd chapter. And so the idea of partnership, people partnering together, and we like to put a centralized focus at the top, but the operation of the entity or the organization, or you want to call it an organism, however you want to identify the church, really the church is a body. And so it's not what we see here. This is simply just a building, but it's a body. But yes, there is the authority that is inside the church, but really without the body coming together, like Paul talked about. In fact, he used the term fitly joint, like different members coming together and solidifying in a way that this thing is operating. So yes, not everybody can be the brain, not everybody can be the right bicep. If you're a left-hander, then the left bicep. Not everybody can be, you get where I'm going with this? Not everybody can play. Somebody's got to be, the C3, the L4. Somebody's got to play the part. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to stabilize this thing by being ACL, you know what I mean? Or whatever. We can't always be the face. Everybody is vital. Little Landon, my goodness. Little dude's been just in and out and fighting sickness and all kinds of septic nonsense because of his appendix. And it's like, well, that's not an important thing. We can live without it. Well, okay. We might be able to live without it, but boy, it sure messed things up when it wasn't well. You get what I'm saying? Like, we all play a vital part, and that's the beauty of the body. So taking a few moments before Wednesday night, it's like, well, you don't get your full hour. Well, you're welcome on that, because I'm assuming you don't want the full hour. And so you're welcome, and I'm welcome by watching the body become a little closer every week. So it really does something. So we're not just wasting time on Wednesday nights. We're trying to come together in a very, very busy, it's just a busy, life's busy. And it's not a season anymore. I'm like, oh, it's just a busy season. I'm like, this season has lasted 18 years. Like, it's not a season, it's life. And we all get 24 hours a day. And, it's just filling up more and more for all of us. So we do have to be intentional. I made a statement last week, and I stand by that statement. In fact, it was it really has been the central theme of even the marriage conferences. And I don't know the wisdom of God like I think I know the wisdom of God until I'm standing on the backside of the, time, and I can look back and I'm like, man, he is so wise. He is so wise. But, just been studying. Really, it's been almost the consumption of my study is about the home, about the church, about the necessity for the merging of the two, and how can we be better? How can we be better at home? How can we be better? All those elements that we've been trying to talk about. And these things have become the statement, like the staple of, even these marriage conferences. And I made a statement last week, and I stand by that statement. I think it's worth beginning tonight. And that is that your home will never drift towards spiritual maturity. It just won't happen. And without things being done absolutely with intention. And gentlemen, I commend you because we have hard workers. And very, very hard workers. Women, I commend you because we have hard workers. It's a two-income world. You're either working hard overtime, or both of you are engaged, and because it's a two-income world. We hate to think that, but it just is what it is now. And but I commend you for working as hard as you do. Compliment you because it is. It's tough to make it, and you're doing it. You're laying out the fabric. But can I say, for a head of household, it's not just enough to work hard and provide a physically safe environment for your family, and it's not enough just to provide a financially safe environment for your family. You have to create a spiritually safe environment for your family. And you have to do that. You have to do that. It's imperative. And I want to show you tonight how imperative that is. And I made a couple comments last week about Golden Corral and whatever else. I stand by those comments, but I am not going to make those comments this week, just in case. I'm sorry, Bob. I know that's one of your favorites, but I'm not going to do it. I mean, you're just trying to take Denise there, but Valentine's night. That's your brother-in-law that said that, by the way. That's not me. Judges, if you'll turn with me in the book of Judges, chapter 2. Anybody that has their Bible, you can turn to it on your phone. That's fine as well. But I'm gonna read chapter 2, verse number 7. This will pop it up on the screen here in just a second. But I'm going to show you the difference between 4 verses. Judges chapter 2, beginning verse number 7. And the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did for Israel. And so this is the closing of Joshua's life. Joshua was handed the baton, and the beauty of Joshua's life is that the Lord said, as I was with Moses, so shall I be with you. I'm going to be with you like I was with him. Joshua was not a partaker when Moses was on the mount. He was not a partaker. You can read how Joshua came off of the mountain. Now, where he was, I don't know, but he came out of that mountain when Moses was furious that they were not just worshiping another god, or let me say it right. They were not worshiping the image of the God that they served. It wasn't another God. He was furious of what that worship looked like. It was incredibly perverted. It had went from Aaron creating this calf. The significance of that calf is that Goshen was outside of Egypt. It was outside of Egypt. And surrounding Goshen would have been, we'll call them Gentile because they weren't Hebrew, so they're Gentile nations that worshiped idols. And one of the major worshipped idols in both Egypt and in the areas surrounding where the Hebrews were was a calf or a bull. And so when they approached Aaron, they said, Moses has been gone a long time. There's been silence from our leader for a long time. Somewhere in the vicinity of nearly 6 weeks. We've got over 40 days that Moses has been gone at this point. And so, Aaron, make us an idol. I read this the other day. In fact, Brother Curtis, it was from the Grace Point book. It was a great, in fact, I read it like 3 or 4 times just so that I can put it in my memory. But the writer made a statement, and I thought that the statement was an amazing statement. She said that they asked Aaron, create for us an idol. Now realize, and I'll say the statement here in a second, but realize that they are not creating a substitute. This is not Balaam. Pick your God. This is not Dagon. Pick your God. This is what we want, is for you to create an image of Jehovah. You read it. Create for us an image of Jehovah. This affects the homes. I'm just going to be real tonight. This can't be more 21st century. We want an image of God. And here's the statement, and then I'll go off of the statement. She said they desired that image that would be both a comfort to them as well as not a challenge to them. So it's what we are comfortable with, and it's not a challenge to us. So here's what we want. We want God, and Aaron creates this off of their golden items, and they melt them down, and they build this mold, and somehow he chisels out this spectacle in the shape of a calf. And Aaron says these words, behold your God. This is, and he uses, the phrase is Jehovah. This is Jehovah, who has brought you out of the land of Egypt. This is not a different God. It's not them bringing into their home a different God to serve. There are many idols that we can let in. That's not what I'm talking about tonight. It's not the idol of self. It's not the idols of addiction. It's not the idols of, you fill in the blank. Boom, 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 boom. This is not that idol. This idol is a violation of multiple commandments of God that will be found out. Multiple commandments, 1 and 2. This graven image that they were bringing in and they were going to introduce into their homes, had it not been for Moses coming off that mountain and becoming enraged and melting that thing down and having them consume it, drink it. Drink the bitterness of what you worship. Let it become a part. I want you to digest what you're, that's what he's, literally, he melts it down, drink this. This image is not another God. This image is the reduction of the Supreme One that called them into very challenging positions. Serve me only. Serve me like this. You will have nothing. And I get the law hasn't been formed like this, but God is leading them into tough places. We will never have to be led to another Red Sea experience where we are totally dependent on Him. Why? Because we're not going to be challenged like that anymore. And so the image is I can reduce God down to something that is palatable for my family. That is 21st century ideology. It's bringing the throne down into a position that I am comfortable with. Because I promise this Jesus that we serve will challenge our family. He will challenge our family structure, our DNA within our family. He will challenge those elements. He'll make it uncomfortable for you. Conviction makes us uncomfortable, and it should. Conviction is not a bad thing. It's a very beautiful thing. Conviction leads us into a position where we start understanding I am not in direct alignment with His will. I can reduce him down to where I no longer, I have to answer these questions quite a bit, and I answer them to Christians that are consuming the sincere milk of the word and those that are eating meat. I answer these kinds of questions, and the kinds of questions that come across my desk sometimes and come across the phone lines have to do with the challenge of God. And why would he? It's no less than the rich young ruler concept, who approaches him, Dre, and says, I want to inherit the kingdom of God. What do I need to do to inherit the kingdom of heaven? How do I inherit that? And I'm not going to go into that. You've heard me talk about it a lot. The concepts of inheritance. This is a hand-me-out situation again. How do I do it? And so the challenge is, it comes across. Ready? It's palatable. From your youth up, you need to follow the commandments. Of course, Jesus doesn't say that, but that's the insinuation will just follow the commandments. And he says, I've done that from my youth up. So I've already done that. So that should make me, and so ready? Here's the challenge of that household. Go and give what you got. Go, sell, give, come and follow. 5 things. And if you'll do that, I'll trade you your riches for my riches. Because he says that. He says you will have riches in heaven. The issue is he can't see past what he's able to spend today. There's no way. He's not looking into the future. He's looking today, and he walks away. And when he walks away, it's not wrong to be wealthy. That's not the issue. The issue is not wealth. The issue is he can't handle his wealth. And that is going to stop you from inheriting the kingdom of heaven. And so I've got to stop that. I've got to deal with your house. He didn't make a blanket statement and say, everybody, listen to me. I don't know who out there is wealthy. Who's wealthy out there? A couple raise their hand in the back. Hey, come here. We're gonna create a rule. Everybody come here front and say, hey, everybody that's poor, get back, you poor folk. Just first class only, shut the blinds. Shut the blinds. Use the restrooms that are in your class, Oh, the frequent flyer knows what I'm talking about. You're like 1 seat away from first class, and you got to walk to the back of the plane. He didn't make a blanket statement or a rule for every home. He said, I'm going to deal with this house right here. And in this house right here, you will not inherit the kingdom of God if you hold on to this. But if you'll come and follow me, you will. And he walks away sorrowful. And so much that the disciples say, well, who then? Who then? Who then can inherit? I mean, if he can't, somebody that's got everything can't inherit. Who's able to do it? Of course, the Lord goes on to talk about the eye of the needle, the camel going through it. It's the household. And Aaron has created a calf. And he says, here is the God that brought you out. And the Lord's got to deal with this generation. He's got to deal with this generation. It keeps them mobile. And we're not talking about the span of the United States. He keeps them mobile. And there will be times that we'll see the same areas and camp in the same region and probably see the same and let the animals graze in the same overtime, but he's taking them. And this God, man, this is where the tent of meeting happens. This is where God says, I'm not going to dwell in the camp anymore. So you create a tent of meeting for me outside the camp. I don't want to dwell with them anymore. He wants to destroy them. And Moses says, please don't do it. I'm done dealing with people that do not want me at the center. Eventually, the tabernacle becomes the center. But I'm done dealing with these people, and so they get to watch the presence of the Lord from a distance. It's a unique situation, and God eventually says, I'm not going to deal with this stiff-necked people. I'm going to raise a generation after this. And this is the Joshua generation. He tells Moses, you're not that generation. And Joshua leads them beyond the Jordan, and now they're conquering, they're walking around. And just, Michael, it's just, I don't want to say it mean, just don't say a word and walk around. And then on the last day, when you're exhausted, I want you to shout with everything you've got, and the walls come down. That's the Joshua generation. He's got to deal with Achan, got to deal with Ai. They've got to move forward. And now Joshua's an old man, and he lets the people go forth, and they begin to take the inheritance. And now we see where Naboth is refusing to sell his land later on, because this land was given to them and they were to steward this land, and it's not theirs to sell. And man, it seems like it's a high point, and we're reading in Judges chapter 2, and this is a high point. And he says, all the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua. The ones that had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did for Israel. But, 3 verses. There arose, verse number 10, another generation after them, which knew not the Lord. There was no relationship. There is no relationship with God. They did not know God, nor the works which he had done for Israel. They didn't have a relationship with him, and they had no awareness. God removed a generation that refused to serve him, honored a generation that did serve him. The problem is that the baton gets passed from one generation to the next. Even though that generation ends up passing away, there is still, there's still a passing down of the baton. But by the time Joshua dies and all the elders die, those that had an experience with God, those that knew God, those that had a relationship with God, those that had suffered in the heat of the day, those that had walked around. You get where I'm going with this? They knew him. They saw the judgments. They saw the beauty of God. And now we've got a generation that is settled. We've got a generation that has inheritance. We have a generation that is moving within promise. And that generation no longer strives, no longer says we're going to pass this thing down. So they're living in it. They're just not transmitting it. You know what they were? They were a first generation type people that siloed their faith. They put their faith in a silo, they built that grain up, and they ate it themselves. And by the time they were removed from the scene, there was no seed left to pass on to another generation. They siloed their faith. You know what they did? They gathered together with their own group, and they talked about the great things that God had done. Do you remember when God did this? I don't mind a church that has a beautiful past. We have a beautiful past. I love our story. But the day in which we're not looking forward, the day in which all of our celebration is about the past, all of our celebration is about when God brought us into a building, but we don't have a future building. All of our celebration is about what God did through the majority of the offerings, but we have no plans to pass this thing down to the next generation. That's why we started taking up what's called an all offering instead of just family offering. Everybody's involved in this. God gave me that revelation 2 years ago. The first time we did that, we went from $90,000, moved the mission to $173,000. That's what happened. The pledges went through the roof because it's not just a family thing. We've got that. There was two sacrifices that happened every single day. There were two times where the altars had to make sure that they were kept up. The candlesticks had to be dealt with. You get where I'm going with this? Two times, the early part of the day and the latter part of the day. Because one generation rises up, we got to pass that on to another generation. And what the Lord is putting here is He's putting a principle in effect, and He's saying the early is gonna light the latter. The first is gonna light the second. This thing's gonna keep going. We're just putting more on it. It's just anytime strange fire is, come on, somebody. When you put strange fire, what you're doing is you are literally burning out. You are consuming the cyclical process of what I'm trying to. Everything is about the next generation. Living to pass. Living to pass. And here what we see is a silo generation that experienced God, that was able to hunger and thirst after the things of God, watch Him move, be blessed by Him. These were the people that when they came out in their little diapers and they're consuming some manna. This is the last generation of manna eaters. It's the truth. They're little guys. They didn't even describe the taste of it to the next generation. Tasted like a wafer. Like a angel's type bread. What does that taste like? It's got a little honey flavor to it. They didn't even pass it down in such a manner that what God did for us, He could do for you. Let me teach you. I'm telling you, the breach was the fact that the home, the church operation happened. Boom, bop, boom, bop. But the home stopped. Parents stopped talking to their kids about it. Parents got too busy raising their kids. I'm telling you, I'm going to be a little pastoral tonight. We can't be too busy raising our kids that we forget that we're supposed to be training our kids. They didn't know God. They didn't know God. They didn't know the works of God. Neither one. It was a detrimental time. There was a generational, ready? There was a generational gap in these three ways. The generational gap happened because of these three elements, according to these verses. Failure of transmission. They did not transmit it. Forsaken testimony. They didn't talk about it. And the third thing is there was a false proximity. Failure of transmission, forsaken testimony, false proximity. They did not pass it down to the next generation. Let's be just as passionate. We have to be just as passionate for God in the promise season as we were in the provisionary season. Why are we more hungry for God in the provisionary times when we need Him than when we don't necessarily need Him to provide for us in the same elements that we needed Him in the wilderness? We've got shoes now, and if we scuff them up, we can just toss them in the trash. I got enough money in order to move. Transmission, we need Him now. Everything we have is because of Him. Now, it looks a little different because we're not eating manna anymore. We're having the fruit. We're able to crush down the grains, the work of our own hands. But I'm telling you, sometimes we enter the fields of our promise and we forget to transmit to the next generation how we got here in the beginning. I've been thinking about that as a church. I think the Lord's been convicting me about that. And it's beautiful because we're seeing a harvesting, and we're really kind of almost being led by younger leaders now. And I forget that I was like that. And I'm not going to be led by young leaders. These guys don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I forget when we started the church, I was not even 29. We got to pass it down to the hyphen. We got to pass it down to the students. We got to pass it down to the junior youth. We better pass it down to these kids. We're going to run out of ministry. We're going to run out of ministers. We're so busy building. This is a promise time. We've been living fat, high off the hog kind of concept. We need to start employing some of these little, well, I don't want them to get hurt. How are they else going to learn? They don't learn by winning. They learn by losing. Welcome to ministry. There's a lot of loss in here. I'm going to be the best teacher they done ever have. Come here. Join my club. Come here. Let me show you. Let me show you what real hurt feels like. I'm just helping them grow, mama. They're going to be all right. Failure of transmission. Forsaken testimony. That's the second thing. We're not creating space for testimonies. We got to do it as a church. We need to do it at home. This is what God is doing. This is how God is doing this. I'm going to make a bold statement, but I need to be careful and not take the credit for what God wants the credit. He wants credit. He wants glory. Well, I've worked hard. That's why we have what we have. We have what we have because God is merciful. And without him, I would not have the strength to wake up. And without him, I would not have the wisdom and to be able to run this company or this division. Or without him, I wouldn't have hands that are skilled enough to perform this labor. Without him, you get where I'm going with this? The testimonies that we can apply. And do you remember Deuteronomy 6? The greatest revelation was supposed to be preserved through the rhythm of daily disciplines. Well, I'm not a great preacher. You don't have to be a great preacher, but what you do need to do is to be somebody that does not forget the testimony at the kitchen table and say, hey, let me tell you what happened at work today. And these, you got little 5, 6, 7, 13-year-olds, 19-year-olds, whatever, sitting around the table. We're eating a bowl of spaghetti. We're carving it up, And we're eating at the table, and we're not taking these opportunities to tell the greatest revelations, to pass these great revelations on. If you don't have family dinner and you have small children, that needs to be corrected from tonight on. I am not trying to get into your household business, but maybe it needs to be gotten into. There is a lost art that happens at the kitchen table. And if there's noise in the background coming from a 65-inch box while you're trying to have dinner and they're wanting to tell you something about their day, you need to turn off Fox News and you need to listen to your children and teach them, or somebody else will teach them. You don't have the talks, somebody's having the talks, and they're going to walk away with thinking something that is not biblical, not scientifically right. This is pastoral time. I'll inspire you on Sunday morning with some shiny thing, but this is just pastoral talk. Don't miss an opportunity. Husbands, listen to your wives at a kitchen table. They shouldn't just have to listen to you. Wives, listen to your husbands. Well, he's not much of a talker. Well, he wooed you somehow. And it wasn't by his good looks, all right? We all know that. And then there's an idea of false proximity. As long as they're close to the house of God, they're going to be all right. they're close to the things of God. They're close to the people that were close to the things of God. That's not true. It's not passed down just because you are in proximity. Judas was in close proximity. And whatever the reason, if you think he was a revolter or if you just think he was greedy, whatever your reasoning behind him trying to push Jesus into this, or he was leading him because he wanted the funds, whatever your reasoning behind that is, no matter what he saw, what every other disciple saw, ends up on a tree and doesn't even calculate his own body weight right. And he ends up on the ground. All over the ground. There's an idea of false proximity. We can't expect a generation to have a successful relationship with God without us successfully explaining, modeling, and embedding this doctrine and experience into that next generation. We have to explain it. We are the teachers. We are the greatest portrayal of truth should not be found in a church. It should be found in the home. You, Dad, you, Mom, should be the closest example to Jesus Christ in your kids' eyes. It should not be me. The difference between me and you is I just get paid for this. Y'all are the home builders. I don't build your homes. I don't build your homes. I will not answer to God for what you are supposed to do in your home. Now, I will have a lot to answer to God for, believe me, for what I say and what I don't say and how I respond and how I don't respond. And if I fear man more than I fear, I'll answer for a lot, and it's frightening to me. It's absolute frightening to me. I go to bed at night asking the Lord, every time I sputter something across this microphone, I say, Jesus, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart, I don't want to say anything out of bounds. But I'll double dip when I get there, because I'm not just a pastor, I'm a father. And I'll stand before him for what I allowed in my house and what I did not. And he's not going to take excuses at that point in time. His mercy is wonderful. David knew what he was talking about when he said, when I look behind me, I see goodness and mercy. But there will be a time when that mercy shifts from salvation and preservation to his mercy being, I will not allow anything that is not holy and righteous to be with me for eternity. There will be a cutoff point to the natural mercy of God that we feel all the time. And that mercy, when I stand before him, there's no more mercy. If you don't like that side of God, you need to get in that book, because that's the side of God that we're all going to stand for. We're going to stand before him like that. That is a frightening, and it should cause us to shudder a little bit. Whew. Wow. Now, do I believe that we're all? Yes. Do I believe that God? Yes. I believe that we're going to stand. But are we? Yes. I'm talking to head of households right now. I'm talking to both moms and dads. I'm talking to potential parents. I'm talking to ones that were married and are no longer. I'm talking to us all tonight, from elder all the way down. I don't care if I'm just starting life. If you're the head of your own household, you hear me now. You are responsible for explaining, modeling, and embedding this into the next generation or into your own personal life, because our bodies are the temple of the Holy Ghost. So it's like, well, Pastor, I'm telling you, I am responsible for what is preached here. And the church is simply this body, this organism called the church today. You want to know what this is? I'll tell you. I'll give you the definition of what the church today is. Jinx, Spanish ministry, English side right here. It doesn't matter. Here's what the church today looks like. The church today is a collection of individual households that meet underneath one roof and call itself a local body. I'm responsible for ensuring that the outcome of what the collection, what I say to the corporate and collection of the body, but the individual bodies, you're responsible. Not me. I've had people ask me, what kind of deodorant should I buy? I'm like, I tell you what, you need to go to the Dollar General and get the cheapest stuff. Because I want to see them on Sunday morning. I want to see them sweat. Don't ask me that. Man, I'm not asking Pastor that again. I solved that issue. I've been a financial advisor. What kind of shingles, what dimension of shingles they should buy on their, what kind, you think I'm lying? I've literally answered that question about deodorant. I don't know. I don't know. But you better do something. I have answered that question. I don't know. But I can tell you where the church today is going. I can give you the vision of TCT. I can do that. I can tell you how we're going to operate here. I can tell you how we're going to preach and hold the standard. I can give you that. I can tell you how our ministry on this platform is going to feel, appear. I can tell you that, but what I can't tell you is how you operate your home. But what I can tell you right now is that you better do it right. That's what I can tell you. That's what I'm supposed to tell you. And the only way we do it right is if we do it biblically. This idea of false proximity, because here's the truth, and I got 2 minutes. The truth is in Judges 2:11, and the children of God, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served Balaam. One verse following them not knowing, they trended towards the cultural idols that were in the land. They served the gods that existed in a land of promise. So just because you are in a land that God gave you does not mean that you are exempt from what effects that culture will have. If you are not intentional about this thing, your heart and home will gravitate towards what everybody else is doing. We have a high calling on our lives. And I think God takes it a lot more serious than we can ever imagine. This calling is high. This dimension that the church today and his body in general is supposed to operate at is very, very high. And my fear is that we are living in a very shallow end of what potential that we could have, because we are okay with reducing him down to something that is palatable to us instead of saying, Lord, I don't understand what's in that deep end. And it crucifies my flesh. But somewhere along the line, I thought we were supposed to bear it anyway. I thought we were supposed to load ourselves down with that cross and follow you. Not reduce that cross down to something that is, it's a picture of what we're supposed to be carrying. Make us a calf. Moses said, no. Burn it. Consume it. There's not going to be anything left of that. And I want you to taste the bitterness of what happens. And oh God, there is such bitterness when we follow the trends. Such bitterness when we follow the trends. Lord, I pray over this congregation. If there's any people that I believed in this world as much as I believe in these people, I don't know if I've ever seen or felt. I believe in the call of God that is on their life. I believe in the call of God that collectively we're supposed to have. I believe that individual homes are supposed to be marked not with temporary